Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're dissecting nature's most ruthless hunters. But we're not just grouping them by geography or species family, no. We're looking at the actual, fascinating evolutionary strategies they use to strike. If you think about the animal kingdom as a massive arms race, right? Well, the predators we're looking at today are the ones carrying the heavy artillery. We've got 4 distinct tactical categories on the agenda today, which gives us a pretty incredible masterclass on how biological weaponry has evolved for maximum efficiency. We're going to start with pure crushing power, move into the masters of the ambush, accelerate into lightning-fast strikes, and finish up with the overwhelming power of the mob. All right, let's dive right into Section 1, pure crushing power. We're looking at the heavyweights whose main strategy relies on inescapable, blunt, physical trauma. These guys don't need to be overly tricky because their sheer mechanical force is just completely overwhelming. On land, you might actually be surprised to find the vegetarian hippo on this list, but an 8,000-pound hippo defends its territory with jaws from hell that open a massive 150 degrees. On the flip side of that, you have the stealthy jaguar. Weighing in around 250 pounds, the jaguar totally skips the slow throat bite. Instead, it uses these massive canines to pierce its prey's skull directly, with enough force to literally crack right through a turtle shell. When if we look to the water, we find a number that is truly staggering. 3,700. That's the earth-shattering bite force, in pounds, generated by the saltwater crocodile. This 20-foot reptile reigns supreme with the strongest bite on Earth. With that kind of mechanical power, they consume absolutely anything they want, from hard-shelled sea turtles to 1-ton water buffalo. There are even reports from the 1945 Battle of Ramree Island that they consumed hundreds of human soldiers fleeing into a swamp. When you have 3,700 pounds of pressure at your disposal, well, everything looks like a meal. Let's move to our next category, Section 2, Masters of the Ambush. If our first section was all about the hammer, this one is the hidden trap. We're looking at predators that trade sheer, constant physical aggression for stealth, patience, and lethal disguise. Take the crab spider, for instance. This tiny predator wages a war of delicate destruction without ever even spinning a web. Let's say it needs to hunt on a yellow flower. Its upper cell layer will literally produce a yellow pigment over a few days. Meanwhile, the lower cell layer actually acts as a mirror. Light reflects right through that yellow pigment, making the spider flawlessly color match to its environment. It just sits, perfectly invisible, waits for an unsuspecting butterfly to land, and then grabs, paralyzes, and drains it dry. It's camouflage down to the cellular level. But hey, ambush tactics aren't just for tiny spiders. Leopards use curved ears that capture sound waves 5 times better than we can, tracking prey right from the shadows of the tree canopy. Up in the Arctic, the massive polar bear uses insulated, reflective fur to blend perfectly into the shifting ice before ambushing a seal, a meal it might have swum 60-plus miles just to find. And down south, the leopard seal looks pretty clumsy on land, but in the water, it instantly transforms into a sleek 1,000-pound, 14-mile-per-hour torpedo that ambushes penguins right from below. Deception can also be incredibly quiet. Enter the vampire bat, which happens to be the only mammal on Earth that dines exclusively on blood. It uses thermal sensors on its nose to pinpoint warm blood close to the surface of a sleeping animal's skin. It makes a tiny slice with razor-sharp canines, and then, here's the crazy part, it introduces an anticoagulant in its saliva. This completely stops the blood from clotting, so it just flows freely. The bat silently laps it up, and it drinks so much it can actually double its 2-ounce body weight in a single super stealthy meal. Now let's ramp the energy up a bit for Section 3, lightning-fast strikes. We're shifting focus to hunters whose survival depends on blink-and-you-miss-it, split-second velocity. We're talking biomechanical efficiency measured in literal milliseconds. When we compare the extreme speeds of biological weaponry side by side, it's pretty amazing to see the plant kingdom holding its own here. The Venus flytrap snaps its carnivorous maw shut in a startling 1/10 of a second. Then you've got the chameleon, which can accelerate its extendable tongue from 0 to 20 feet per second just to snatch a cricket. But check out the bottom row, the trap-jaw ant. Its mandibles close in 130 microseconds. Keep that staggering number in mind because we are definitely coming back to it in a moment. Before we get back to the ant, we really got to talk about speed combined with chemical warfare. The 14-foot black mamba is the fastest venomous snake in Africa, able to slither at 12 miles per hour. But its real speed is in the strike itself, which injects a devastating neurotoxin, a fast-acting poison that attacks the nervous system and causes rapid paralysis. This biological weapon is so swift and so potent, a human bitten by a black mamba can die in just 20 minutes. But even the deadliest snakes get outmatched sometimes. Put a highly venomous, blindingly quick spectacled cobra up against the Indian gray mongoose, and the mongoose walks away the winner. Why? Because this furry little speed demon has absolutely perfect reflexes. It dodges the snake's lightning strikes, relies on a natural immunity to the venom just in case he gets nicked, and finishes the deadly dance with a fatal bite in under 2 seconds. Under 2 seconds! Yet, as I promised, the absolute crown for the quickest predatory appendage on Earth brings us right back to the tiny trapjaw ant. 140. That is how many miles per hour their mandibles snap shut. It happens in 130 microseconds, reaching a peak force 300 times the ant's own body weight. It's an insanely fast, guillotine-like weapon that deals instantaneous death to its prey. But amazingly, evolution didn't just make this a weapon, it built a getaway vehicle. When the ant feels threatened, it locks those supersized mandibles out at a 180-degree angle. Then, it violently snaps them, not at the enemy, but directly against the ground. The massive force of that 140-mile-per-hour snap vaults the ant vertically into the air, traveling up to 6 times its body length backwards to safety. It literally has an ejector seat built into its face. So we've seen incredible individual power, right? From the hippo to the spider, the mongoose to the ant. We've seen stealth and we've seen speed, which sets up a fascinating question for our final section. What is actually scarier than a mouthful of teeth? Well, that brings us to section 4, the power of the mob, a mob of hungry mouths. In this section, we'll see how predators trade in individual physical superiority for the sheer, overwhelming, and honestly terrifying force of social coordination. Out on the savannah, teamwork is the ultimate weapon. Look at these squads. Lions can sprint at up to 34 miles per hour, but only for a few seconds. So to take down a half-ton zebra that could break their jaws with a single kick, they absolutely have to coordinate. They surround the prey from multiple angles before delivering a fatal windpipe-crushing bite. And they aren't alone out there. Packs of hyenas use mob rules to compete, forming semicircles to isolate and pick off straggling wildebeests. Thanks to their cast-iron stomachs and powerful jaws, hyenas consume absolutely everything, crushing and digesting the hides and the bones, leaving nothing behind but their trademark white feces. But to witness the ultimate mob, we have to look on a micro level. Millions of African driver ants act not as individuals, but as a single coordinated super predator. They fan out scouts to find targets like massive forest termite mounds, which leads to these epic, savage underground battles. The ants flood the barricaded tunnels trying to reach the giant, bloated termite queen, while huge soldier termites literally bang their heads on the ground to sound the alarm. It's a brutal war of attrition where only overwhelming termite reinforcements rushing up from below can finally push the invading ant army back. Just pure, brutal warfare based entirely on sheer numbers. So, the big takeaway here is that whether it's the brute force of a crocodile, the chemical stealth of a vampire bat, the mechanical speed of a trapjaw ant, or the sheer mob mentality of a lion pride, nature's ingenuity is totally ruthless. It's brilliantly optimized for survival. If you find yourself looking down one of these murderous maws, well, say goodbye. But it really leaves you wondering, how would we humans actually fare against these evolutionary marvels if we were completely stripped of all our technology? I'll let you chew on that one for a bit. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep your curiosity sharp.